But Dave's kind of had a really interesting career. He's held engineering roles in some big companies such as Compare the Market, kind of a whole host of engineering roles and developer roles, kind of moving towards tech lead, application architect there. Always likes to be at the cutting edge of the web technologies. He's also got vast experience with leading teams, mentoring, inspiring teams, and really keen on kind of ways of working, including Agile and Lean as well, hence the um, contribution to Agile Peterborough. And during his career, and really relevant to this fireside chat, he's always made time for those kind of personal projects and self-development, which has really got him noticed in communities. And I think that's the basis of what he's bringing here this evening for us. And this is a bit of a follow-up really to the Jeff Gothelf talk that we had back in August. If you haven't seen that, you can go back and watch that on our YouTube channel. That's talking about how to become forever employable. So as I say, you can go back and watch that, and that will maybe bring some of what you hear to life as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Tom and Dave. Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Tim. So yeah, thanks for introducing Dave. So as Tim mentioned, we welcomed Jeff Gothelf way back, quite a few months ago now, back in August. And Jeff's newest book is Forever Employable, as Tim mentioned. And Forever Employable, the concept of being forever employable, Jeff kind of sees it as a state where the state that you get into where work finds you rather than you going out and finding work. And it sounds like quite a nice position to be in, but it's one that Jeff found himself in, but it took a lot of effort to get into. So what we thought at Agile Northants was, wouldn't it be great, because we often hear people speaking about concepts that they've kind of come up with, but we thought it'd be fantastic if we could actually speak to somebody who's actually got into that position through their own efforts. So we reached out to Dave Boyne, who has been fortunate enough through a huge amount of effort, got himself into the kind of the league that Jeff talked about of being forever employable. So I've known Dave for quite a while now. I worked with him for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and I've always, from when I first knew Dave, saw him as a fantastic leader, and really been inspired by his passion and drive that he's always shown. So that's why I welcome Dave. So big thanks to Dave Boyne for joining us tonight. Dave is very happy to take questions as we go along. So let's make this a conversation. So it's not just one way. So feel free to unmute yourself and chip in as we go along. So we're going to run this as a bit of a fireside chat. So I'll be asking Dave questions. Dave will be kind of giving answers. But as I say, chip in yourself if you've got your own questions, and we'll turn into a conversation. So the first thing I'd be really interested in, Dave, is just a kind of a high-level summary of where you started out, how you first got into software development, and kind of where you've found yourself now.
Yeah, well, yeah, first, thanks for the intro, but wow. But yeah, that was cool. So that's a good question, really. So I don't know how far back to go, but I'll keep it brief. I actually was so close not going into computing at all. I kind of finished A-levels. This was like 12 years ago or whatever, 14 years ago. And I really didn't know what to do. And then, girlfriend, now my wife at the time, said, why don't you do some computing stuff? And I was so close not to do it. But I thought, I don't want to work full time, so I'll just do it and just bum around. So I done a uni course after time and found a passion for programming, actually. And then I went on to get my first job, actually, as a junior engineer there. And then, which I remember thinking at the time, oh my God, is this it? Because it was a pretty rubbish job, actually. And then, and then as time goes on, fast forward 10 years, and over this time, worked at various companies, just writing software, being a developer, and then getting more and more into Agile stuff, and Scrum stuff actually was the original stuff years ago. Enjoying Compare the Market and meeting Tom and various other people, starting Agile Peterborough, and getting more and more into kind of like learning what Lean is and Agile is and various other things. and still being a developer, right? Still learning to code, write code, and deliver value to products. And then as time goes on, kind of like leading teams there. And then even further beyond that, it's kind of like architecting solutions and various things like that. And then after kind of a 7-year gig at Compare the Market, which is quite a long one, I decided to join a startup. So they're based in Leicester called Dead Happy. And I was the first engineer there. So it was, we were responsible for building an engineering team, building a team, so we can just actually build a product to market. So I was there for 2 years. And then after that, so this is where this kind of, this is the path into this discussion, I guess, is while I was there, I found a passion for a certain technology. It is like an event-driven architecture. I won't go into too much details, but it's a certain technology that I never really used before. I never really understood before, but for some reason really resonated with me, right? And I decided to like just to write about it and to blog about it and to explore it and everything else like that, which led me to, which I guess we'll go into in a bit, but led me to like handfuls of opportunities, right? And meeting new people and various things like that. And now I'm in a role where I get to do that stuff and get paid for it. So I work now for Postman, who's like one of the biggest like developer tooling things out there. I work part of their open technology team. So I don't focus on the Postman stuff at the moment. I just focus on open source stuff. So exactly, everything I was passionate about, everything I was writing about, and I'm still passionate about, I get to focus on that full time now. So that's where I am now.
Fantastic. Thanks for that intro, Dave. So just reflecting back on one of the things that Jeff talked about when he was here, and you can read about in his book, he tells a story about, he said when he was 35, he was in a role, he'd been in a role for quite a while, and he said it hit him because he realized that it's not going to be too long before there's a lot of younger people who are after his job, and he felt like he was going to become irrelevant. And that kind of sparked him to think, like, what can I do to get into a position where work is going to find me and I'm not going to have to go and look for work anymore? Did you find yourself in a similar position? Kind of what was the point, or was there a point consciously where you thought that I want to be like this? I don't want to have to look for jobs anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I think with technology in general is, I've known developers that are my age. I'm 34, I think they're, but I've known older developers, and you kind of you do get burnt out. You get burnt out with the technology trends, like even the agile stuff, right? Even tonight, like learning so much stuff. There's just so much stuff to learn all the time. So you kind of do think, are people come up behind you and take it all? But I had this particular moment, I guess, which pivoted for me, and I went for an interview when I was at Compare the Market towards the end of my time. I went for an interview for a large company in the US, and it was for like a leadership role there, paying really well. And I thought, I saw someone advertise this on Twitter, and I thought I'll give it a shot. It was 5-stage interview process, which is too much, but 4 out of 5 went perfectly well. And then at the end of it, I had to do a tech test, and I had to, someone was in an echoey room in the middle, just picture this, in the middle of this room, you can't really hear the communication very well. We've all been there on Zoom calls, right? Even in our bedrooms, we can't even get that right sometimes. And they say, okay, right, have you heard of this card game called Kings or whatever it was? And I was like, no, it's an American card game, I think. I was like, no, I haven't heard of it. And I was like, okay, well, this is the card game. Here's a 30-second summary. Now I want you to write an app for it. And it just flopped. Basically, the whole thing flopped. And I thought, I really wanted the job. The thing flopped, and I didn't get it. And I think from then on, I was kind of like, and this is very interesting. This was like 3-4 years ago. I was kind of like, wouldn't it be cool? Like, I can't be bothered with that. I'm getting, I don't know, maybe it's arrogance. I don't know, but I think why can I started to think, why can you be in a position where, yeah, as Jeff says, work finds you, right? And how do you get, I guess, how do you get in that position where work finds you? And what are other people doing out there that are the consultants or whatever else like this? What is everyone doing? And I kind of, that was back in my subconscious, right? I wasn't like consciously looking. I wasn't like consciously like, I'm never gonna have an interview ever again, because no doubt I will, right? But I think there are things you can do, and hopefully share some of them today, but there are things you can do to create new connections. I think that's what it all comes down to, really, is relationships with people. And that's, yeah, definitely my experience.
I imagine if you're in that same situation without the pressure, in a team, you're comfortable with the team around you, you could have absolutely nailed that interview and built that app with your eyes closed, probably.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think that's the majority of us in interviews, right, is when you're in your own environment. It's a lot easier, isn't it? But yeah, that definitely started spiking it. It definitely had that in my head. So when I actually listened to Jeff's on an audio book before you mentioned this, Tom, and before I even know you were talking to Jeff. And a lot of that resonated with me for sure. About, he was saying that he didn't want to, he wanted work to find him.
So one of the other things that I found interesting that Jeff talks about, he's got a list of various characteristics that somebody who wants to make themselves forever employable pretty much has to have. One of those is self-confidence. So you've got to believe that you can become forever employable, and you can get into this position where work is going to find me. Have you always had that, or is that something that, or do you feel like you have got that, and is that something that you've had to learn to do, or is that just something that you've always had?
I think my biggest advice to anyone that's even interested remotely in this, or things like this, is when I was at Compare the Market, there was a moment, right? It was quite early on in Compare the Market. I know I wanted to do talks. I know I wanted to do stuff, but it's imposter syndrome, right? And most people have it. And it's kind of like, how do you get around that? And I think the one thing for me, I kind of really helped that with self-confidence, is you got to understand. You got to understand with anything you do, any content you put out, any talk you do, like even tonight, anything you do, there will be, in quote, haters, right? There will be people you just don't resonate with. There are people that it just won't happen. So don't try, my key advice there really is don't try and please everyone, because once you get over that hurdle mentally, you can move on beyond that, right? And that's I think for me, where the self-confidence comes from. And when you start building self-confidence, and let's say tonight you wanted to write, you learned something about Beyond Agile, and something struck a chord with you. Why not write about it somewhere? Why, in theory, why not? And this is kind of my mentality sometimes, is why not share your own thoughts on top of that? So the first thing you might be thinking is, no one want to listen, right? No, no one really cares. And I think I don't know. I think that's okay too. No one wants to listen, because when you write, I don't know, from me anyway, and I know from what material I read and stuff, is when you write, you kind of solidify in your learning and stuff like that. When you write, you should really write for yourself. So in the future, you can kind of come back and reflect and read that. And then what happens over time, what I've found anyway, definitely what happens over time, is some content you think is just like random. And like a tweet, let's say a tweet of a random thought you just think is like, on the back of a tissue paper. That's the stuff that gets attention. That's the stuff that randomly could get like 10 retweets, 100 retweets or whatever, or sharing, or people reading your blog posts. It's very odd. I don't know. I've not mastered it at all. I've not mastered any of this at all. So I'm still learning, but it's a very odd world of content and stuff. So going back to what you said about self-confidence and stuff, I think you just got to deal with, I don't know, for me anyway, you got to deal with the imposter syndrome for sure. And it's there every day. Should I write this blog post? Should I do this? Should I do this? And it's kind of like, well, I don't know, personally, I get to the point where I think, yeah, why not? Why not do this stuff?
How did you beat that?
Question, if I may.
Okay. Go for it, Tim.
I'm finding this really fascinating, actually. And as someone who kind of recently discovered tech Twitter, probably in the last couple of years, I've not been a big Twitter user, but in the last couple of years, I've really started getting involved in tech Twitter, and you see people have built these massive followings and are like celebrity programmers and get jobs at the biggest companies in the world. And it fascinates me whether they have to still go through the company's standard interview process with the tech tests. It's kind of, I think from listening to you, you've alluded to the fact that that's maybe not the case for everyone. And I wonder if you think there will be a tipping point where companies become a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, flexible with that recruitment process. Because I, like you, I've been through really kind of drawn out long interview processes, and you think, actually, have they learned anything more about me than they would from my LinkedIn profile? Yeah. Or from just a one casual conversation. So I'm just really interested if you think there'll be a tipping point, and when you think that might be. Or
I've recruited in the past, right, on teams, and if I can learn, if someone's sharing content online, for example, or code or open source stuff or whatever, or blog posts or whatever, or even like tonight, you're all running this, you're all present, you're all here. That'll have a digital footprint everywhere, right? And I don't know, for me, it comes down to hire the right people. Yeah. And the best teams, like the job I've got at the moment, I asked for an interview. Yeah. They said, do you want to join us? And they're like, it's pretty much there on the table. Do you want to join us? And I was like, okay, can I meet the team? Yeah, I want to interview you because I want to understand what I'm about to walk into. But if I had my own business, in the future or whatever, I would hire the right people. Yeah. Like, I'll give you an example. Tom, I've known Tom for a while. And if Tom was interested in joining, whatever, I'd just hire him. If and it goes the same with a lot of people online. There's a lot of people I follow. And a lot of people I follow at the moment are getting huge jobs in huge companies, right? Everyone's hiring remotely. So everyone's moving around. And I can guarantee, I don't know, but I guarantee most of these don't need to do a code test, because they're like maintainers of like React. They're maintainers like in big projects. You don't need to sell yourself that hard, I think. But wouldn't it be, I don't know, that's the goal for me anyway, is like, just put your work out there and be visible, and like the right people, you will attract the right people, and the right people will hire you. That's my philosophy anyway. And if people still want you to jump through hoops, and you're like, I don't know, is that, I start thinking, really, is that for me? I don't know. It sounds pretty arrogant, but I don't know. I guess everyone has to interview somewhere, but I think I don't know. I think we can get past it for sure.
Yeah. I don't think it's arrogance, Dave. I think sometimes the arrogance is on the part of the organization. When you start an interview and the first question they ask is, why should we hire? Why do you want the job? And it's like, well, maybe I don't. You have to sell this job to me as much as I have to sell myself to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for that. Vivar, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, look at Google and look at Twitter, yeah? Those people that got into these top positions, these were internal people. They don't go through a CV process. They don't go for interviews. These are well-known mates of the former CEOs or the former founders, owners of the businesses. And look, let's be real. CV market's only like 30% of visible jobs, and 70% of these jobs have not been even posted. So what you see like really online and when you apply is just like HR is making themselves look busy. We all know that. These are people that, are wasting other people's time. I get calls from agents daily. Today I had 3 calls. Today I had 1 offer, to go and do payment terminal sales in London. So what's the wage? Do you have data? The company's not even prepared, and they're trying to offer something. I'm not going to go for that. And the fine point is that if you want to land a really decent job, you got to make decent connections. And it's about who you know, rather than, making your CV perfect. It doesn't work. And You're talking about going out there and publicizing. Yeah, I mean, social media is probably one way how you can kind of publicize your work. But the best work that publicizes yourself is the work that you do. So if you and your team deliver a super quality work, it will get passed on from people to people. You'll not need any social media, no Instagram, no LinkedIn, no nothing. You can erase yourself from social media. This is what I've been doing. I've been literally deleting my social accounts and just trying to focus on learning, getting the key points, like from the Agile, lean management, Scrum perspective. I'm still a newbie, but I'm trying to onboard myself into some small projects and just get the value, maximum value delivered. So the people come back, like to yourself, also to myself, and say, look, I really love working with you on that project. I've got this acquaintance, that acquaintance who wants to work further. And this is how you can build yourself up in the ladder. Nothing else. You could do paid advertising, you could do PR, but if there's lack of quality, people are going to sense it. It's about the result. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, River. Really, really good points there. Really, really, really interesting. So just kind of following on from that, Dave, one of the other things that Jeff does talk about is he has like a series of steps that, he kind of recommends people go through. The first one is planting your flag, which you've kind of alluded to about where you decided to make your mark and the path you wanted to go down, which is the area of interest you had. The second bit is telling your story, which is about reaching out. Did you have a strategy for that, for kind of telling your story across those channels, and kind of how frequently were you doing it?
Not particularly. Again, the things I've read, the things. And the people are kind of around me and everything. I think one key thing is, which again I kind of resonate with a lot, which is rather than showing the end product, like show how you got there, right? I'll give you an example in tech. So I do a lot of open source stuff now. So it's my full-time job. I could hide away for 2 months and build a product or a project and share it with the world. But especially in the industry I'm in, is people like how things are how things are built, and your ideas and your thoughts along the way, and your failures and everything else like that. So I just share a lot of that, and I think that's the stuff that kind of that's the kind of stuff that people kind of engage with. Oh, I like this, I like that. I can't wait for this, can't wait for that. Or I don't like this, don't like that. And you start kind of like building. There is a phrase for it. It's building in public. And if you go to the indie hackers groups online, which is huge, everyone's building in public. And you'll see there are huge companies out there at the moment getting huge seed funding and God knows what else, all building in public, sharing everything, even to the degree of sharing how much money they're making, their monthly revenues, everything. So why hide it? Why hide all that stuff? And I think that's where communities and people, everyone learns from each other. And that's where the value is at, isn't it? There is a lot of value in there. And just share. I think the key is just sharing it. And I going back to the point earlier, I think the key is once you share it, and once you engage with people that are also engaged in the content you're creating, it's you building relationships, right? And then it's the relationships that lead to opportunities.
I think it goes back to the confidence thing you were talking about as well, though, in terms of when you do build in public, you are naturally going to get both the kind of positive reactions to what you're doing and some kind of negative comeback. So it comes back to having that confidence, almost courage to do that, because it takes a bit of time to build up that courage to just say, I'm just going to push this out there and see what happens. So yeah, it's interesting.
And that's actually the fifth principle that Jeff talks about, is give it all away. And he does say that it seems counterproductive, because he went into it thinking that he's going to go into it and he goes, this is all about profit. This is all about living the life I want to lead and making a load of money. And it seemed counterintuitive, but it's totally not, as Dave talks about.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. One thing I wrote at the start of the year, this is what led me to this job I'm in now. At the start of the year, I wrote some open source code that I was using a certain technology, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it did this? So I wrote some open source code and kind of forgot about it. And then it kind of hit it just resonated. It just hit an audience, and everyone's like, where the hell has this thing been? And stuff like that. So that kind of like leads, as I said, it kind of like led to various different things. I can't remember what you just said. I had a point there. I was trying to remember.
By giving it away.
Oh yeah, give it away. So someone said I was doing a live stream on AWS's stream, which I was like, I'm just out of my comfort zone. I'm like, bloody hell. And someone said, like, why did you give it away for free? You could charge for this software. But I think it goes back to what you just said. I was kind of like, well, I don't know. It's for me anyway, and with stuff like that, you can, right? You can. I could probably go away and build something or whatever. We could all go away, write a book and whatever. Maybe, I don't know, and earn a bit of cash. But I think there is definitely, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely more value giving it away. I mean, look at open source community in general. Everything is given away. And the innovation, the creativity feeds back on itself, and you just create this massive bubble of thoughts and energy and everything. And you wouldn't get that if everyone just held on to their IP and their code and their software and their thoughts. You'd end up in this boring world where everyone's just like competing with each other on everything. But as soon as you start sharing, as I said, you attract people. This is the other key point that I've learned. So you attract similar-minded people. And once you attract people, they want to do you want to jump on a Zoom call? Yeah, again, this is something that's at the start of the year, I was totally out of my comfort zone, jumping on Zoom calls with people I've never met, talking about a project that I'm not an expert in. I just write this idea and just share it, right? And all of a sudden you're on Zoom calls with people and they're like, yeah, love it. What do you think of this? It's a bizarre world. It's a bizarre world. But I encourage, if anyone's thinking or considering doing any of that stuff, I encourage just to share what you know and share what you learn. I don't know, every day that there'll be a process, there'll be something somewhere that can be shared. And the reason why I say that is another key point to make is what I've learned is that there'll always be people that know more than you, right? You'll always be looking up to something or someone. No matter what, there just will be. But there'll always be people that don't know what you know and need to learn, or maybe want to learn what you know. And you're always in the middle. Everyone on this call is in the middle with something somewhere. So the more content and ideas that we share, I think we're feeding the world of this creativity stuff, which I think is nice. And I think a lot of people consume content, consume stuff. Yeah, I think I'm guilty for that. So it's very rare that people kind of generate this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in nowhere near an expert on this. I've just done stuff this year, and some things are kind of landing, and like I'm going to try do more of it next year. But it definitely it definitely falls in hand with what Jeff was saying in his book. About everything about. And I think, yeah, could you be forever employable? I don't know, maybe not. But yeah.
So in terms of telling your story, I imagine it takes time to get traction with this stuff. You're promoting yourself, you're producing, and it doesn't happen straight away. So how do you get past that barrier where you don't seem to be getting traction and waiting to get traction? How do you get through that?
The key is, sorry, I think it's just start, right? And the first things, as I said, it depends on what you want to do this stuff for, and you don't have to do this kind of stuff, but if you're interested, just start writing. Just start somewhere, or share a thought, or write something somewhere. And what you find over time, what I found anyway, is you kind of get this compound interest over time. So you start with so many people following your thoughts, and then they share your thoughts, and they get back to you and give feedback, and then over time you get more people sharing feedback and ideas, and you start creating this like little community of like-minded people that you could just like lean on. I think that's the best bit too, is you kind of lean on each other. But where do you start? I mean, it's the whole thing is a marathon, right? It's just, start at zero. I mean, if you started one thing today, yeah, it's better than yesterday. Yeah. If tomorrow you do another thing, it's better than today. So it's just this small thing, and over time, it does take time, I guess. But you just end up. You could end up. I have no idea. You might end up nowhere. I don't know. But I imagine, like everyone's, people got to start somewhere.
So you're now you got to the point where you've planted your flag, you've decided what you're absolutely passionate about, you've told your story, you've connected with lots of people. People are absolutely loving what you're doing. You're following this new path. You're kind of teaching people. You're talking to people. You're giving all this stuff away. What happens at the end? What happened at the end? Who was reaching out to you? How did you manage to land this job with Postman? And were there other people after you as well as Postman?
Yeah, I think as I said before, you start. Again, it's just my experience, but you start to attract people. I don't know. I'm quite a spiritual person, right? So it's kind of you attract people in the universe, like that. It's just like, yeah, I agree or I don't agree or whatever. And you start building these relationships, and you start going on these random Zoom calls. I think I've got one tomorrow. It's kind of like just meeting people, and don't I think the key point is don't turn people away. Just build the relationships. And how did this one turn out? It was exactly that, which was I got a random Twitter message saying, like your work, would you be up for a chat? I think originally at Postman, it started off as they wanted to sponsor my work on GitHub. So that was like a first sponsorship, right? It's like someone wants to pay money for random tools I'm building. Okay. So I set that up, and then about 2 months later, they said, do you actually want to do this full time? And I was like, I'm quite invested, right? I was quite invested in the startup I'm at. Share options a lot, and it's a good company, good team, loved it. And then I just don't know. I just thought, well, everything's aligning. I want to learn it more, and everything's aligning and various things like that. So I started to take it. But yeah, there were other offers on the table for sure. People coming out and just saying, look, people, I don't know why, people, I don't know, maybe it's good or maybe it's bad, but some people were saying kind of like see you as not the thought leader, I don't know that word, but you got experience in this space, and it's kind of like, well, I'm just like, I think for me anyway, another key point is what I realize is the people that I inspired to, the people I've looked at for the last 10 years or 20 years or whatever, the people that are writing lean UX, right, or lean startup or anything, they're just people. They're just people, yeah, and people with ideas. So what's stopping anyone on this call, what's stopping anyone in general being as successful as that? And there's a lot of graft, there's a lot of luck, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of everything. But it's all there for the taking. That's how I see it. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, quite. I think just people, relationships. If you ever end up in a situation where you're sharing stuff and people want to connect, I really recommend just jump on a call, because it's one call that could pretty much change your life. It's changed my life this year so far, so it was a good call to have.
Yeah. And was it just Postman, or did you have numerous potential candidates lining up?
No, I wrote tools for AWS, for Amazon, and I connected with like 4 or 5 people at Amazon, right? And they were kind of joking around saying, oh, if you want to move to Canada and have a job, feel free to hook me up or whatever. So there's that. But now the thing is, now I create kind of relationships with some of these people. So the content I share, they're also sharing in their communities, and it just ends up in this bubble thing. But yeah, there are people. I had someone on Twitter reach out to me yesterday again, just saying, do you want to pair up and build some developer tools, start building a product and stuff. But as I said, it's a bit bizarre, and it's hard because I don't want to come across on the call and say, hey, look at me, I'm getting all these opportunities because I'm great, whatever else. It's not like that at all. It's I just hope, I don't know, I hope people are encouraged to, if they're interested in this, to give it a go, and like defeat the imposter. And I think you'll be surprised by what you can get in the long term for your stuff. I gave you an example, right? John, which is beyond agile stuff. Where did that start? Yeah, the books. He's got books. He's got posts. He's got leaflets. He's got courses. Where did it start? I can guarantee it started somewhere, right? It started somewhere with an idea or a thought or a blog post or something like this. It's just built this following, and there's this following, and he goes to meetup groups and everything else like that. And it's available. I think it's available for all of us, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think another great example from kind of the Agile community is Mike Burrows, who we've had regularly on Agile Northants. He's definitely built that kind of that following, and he's written several books on kind of Agile and delivery and Kanban as well. And I think he builds in public, certainly through his Slack. I don't know how many people are involved in that, but there was 1,000 people last time I looked. And he shares his ideas as they're in the development, rather than just publishing a book. He's sharing and giving early access to that and shows kind of thought process and stuff, which is really, really cool.
Great, yeah, fun. Yeah, that's really good actually, Tim. And hopefully we'll get Mike back as well, because I think he's got his latest book out as well. So hopefully we'll see Mike maybe later this year. So we're coming to the end then, Dave. So you've been in this role for a few months now. It sounds like it's going really well. Has it met your expectations, or did you have any expectations? How do you kind of summarize how it's going so far?
Yeah, it's I've never been in a role like this. Yeah, I've been on agile teams, product owners, product managers for about 12 years, right? And you end up like, okay, let's build some stuff, let's do some stuff, whatever. And let's change the agile methodology every so often, because things don't work and things never work. So we're always evolving, we're always improving, and all this kind of stuff. But that is embedded in me, right? Embedded in me as a developer is like, how do I take these features and deliver them within a team? How do we continuously improve? How do we continuously deliver, and everything like that? So this role, is like, it's like reshaping yourself. It is a bizarre thing, and I didn't realize this until about 2 months in, where I was kind of in this mindset of, I'll give you just a quick example. It's like we're a team. There's about 5 or 6 of us, right? On I work on async API, which is a specification standard. There's about 5 or 6 of us on there the full time, maybe a bit more now. And I refer to us as a team, yeah, because it's a natural thing to do that. But I keep getting caught. I keep getting kind of called out on it, which is rightly so. Is like, we are not a team, right? In open source, we are not a team. We're part of the community, and the community is around the world. We have about 1,500 people in our Slack channel, but everyone can contribute to this project. So we are just part of that community, and that itself, it takes me a long time to get my head around. Yeah. We are not a product. There is no product. We are not a product team. There is no product owner. Yeah, there is no Scrum. We don't have stand-ups. There is none of this stuff, which I've come from this background. So is it what I expected? Yes, in ways that I can continue just learning all the stuff and doing what I want to do and write blog posts and just continuously do all this stuff. No, in a way that I have to remold, and I'm remolding, I'm learning, and I'm trying to adapt myself in this environment that's just alien to me, which is good. So because I'm learning, I guess I'm growing. So
I feel we've come full circle now, because you're now also talking about beyond Scrum.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's really bizarre. I ran a retro the other day. I ran a retro the other day for this team, you know, of 6 or 7 people. And the first question we had for half an hour, 40 minutes was, are we a team? Should we be doing this? And it's really hard for me to hear sometimes. So I'm like, oh, we are a team because we're all hired to do this. Of course we're a team. But in reality, It's not. So how does, I don't know, for me, I start thinking, how does Agile work in a community that is the world, right? How do you run a retro that is open to the world? How do you do all this kind of stuff? Because I think there is value in it, for sure. There is value in ways of working, there is value in people and communities, and continue. The key is continuous improvement. But when you have people in time zones, most people work on this stuff that we work on part-time, right? On the weekends, in the evenings, they don't get paid. They get paid to do that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of learnings going on there.
Yeah, I think it resonates with me a little bit with the communities of practice movement. And when people talk about communities of practice, there is a core to most communities of practice. I guess like Agile Northants, we invite everyone to come and everyone's welcome. But there's generally there's a core. There's the organisers, which is us, and then we have some people that come to pretty much every event. And I guess they're the ones that maybe shape how the community evolves and how the meetup evolves. But
yeah, I mean so that was my original thought too with async is where I'm at. The problem with that is, which again I'm learning too, which I've been told, which is right, is I won't go too technical, but we're part of the Linux Foundation. So we are hired, for example, I'm hired by Postman to work on open source stuff full time. Now, the project that we work on is not, its backlog, its project, its features is not driven by Postman. We are an open collective of people. So if we had a core team, our core team, by default could be Postman, but they want to kind of obviously not do that, because you start creating this weird vibes. But now they have like community members as part of the group. I can't remember what it's called. Things like TSC members, but they are come from all various different companies. It gets quite complicated, but I think they have they try and create this open core, I guess, group, because I guess you still need people to make decisions, but it's not all just us. So yeah, it's
Dave, this has been fantastic. Really enjoyed the story. Every time I hear your story, it's really awesome and inspiring. Inspires me, and hopefully it's inspired people on the call to realise that, as David says, we're all just people. We've all got ideas, or we can at least have ideas, and we can all make this happen. If we want to make this happen, there's nothing stopping us from making this happen. So yeah, really inspirational, Dave. So thanks so much for joining us. I've finished with all the questions I had. Has anyone got any final questions for Dave just before we wrap up? I know they've all been coming thick and fast whilst we've been going along, so thanks for keeping it conversational. I think we're good, Tim.
perfect. Yeah, I guess that just leads me to wrap up. And again, thank Dave for his time, and Tom for posing those questions. I personally really enjoyed that format, and that worked really well. So again, yeah, thank you, Tom and Dave. If you want to show your appreciation with an emoji or a clap or a cheer, whichever way you want to do it, but really appreciate you taking the time out, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. It's good. It's good to speak to people again.
You're probably speaking to a lot of people. You're probably bored of speaking to people. There's so many people after you.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good to be there. I enjoy it. I enjoy you got a strong, obviously got a strong community here, right? So I like seeing communities and stuff, and people just coming. This is exactly it, right? It's just a group of people coming together with like-minded people, just learning together, right? And just sharing ideas, and that's what it's all about. And there are these communities all over the world doing that, so it's great to be here and just share.